Welcome, Amy Martin. How are you?
Hi, Michael. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to do this. Amy, today I would love to have a conversation with you on branding, building a brand, standing out from the crowd, and getting tips from you on how to do that. So I know how amazing you are. I know all your accomplishments, but for those that do not know who Amy Martin is, Amy, will you please tell us about yourself, about your background, and your accomplishments in the business world?
Sure, I'll try. I am a chief marketing officer currently for a company in Cleveland called True West Holdings. So, True West Holdings is a true holding company. We own 5 portfolio companies underneath that are in the B2B SaaS space, right? So, I manage the marketing for at the holding company level, but then all the portfolio companies as well. I've been in some form of marketing or PR my entire career. Right out of college, OU grad, by the way, go Bobcats. Right out of college, I went to Chicago and kind of, cut my teeth in agency life from Leo Burnett to all the major kind of advertising and PR agencies there, and spent a lot of time learning the trade. I've lived in Japan. I've lived in Cleveland. I've lived in New York. I've lived in Chicago. I've lived partially in Portugal. So my career, I've been very lucky, has taken me all over the world. And I've worked from little baby startups to multi-billion dollar companies. And so for me, it's all about figuring out solving the challenge of how do you resonate and engage with your audience. So it doesn't matter if you're working at a startup company or a billion-dollar organization, the challenges are still relatively the same. So I've been lucky enough to do this for 23, 24 plus years. And, I'm thrilled to be back home in Cleveland now. I've been living, in other cities for a while, and it's been great to be home.
So, I mean, I knew this stuff and it's amazing, but how did you get yourself to do all this stuff? Are you just somebody that is so disciplined with your daily regimen of how you work?
I struggle with that right now that I'm, in my 40s, thinking about that, because I do think I was always like that, growing up. And I think it's a product of growing up in a town that wasn't, thriving from a job standpoint or economic standpoint. I think it was ingrained in me by watching my parents that if I didn't work really, really hard, I was not going to be able to provide for my family. So I think I've always had that in me, and it hasn't left yet. My husband's waiting because I do put a lot of time into my profession. This isn't something that's a 9 to 5 for me, especially in marketing, with everything that changes in marketing with AI and automation and digital. I study marketing and practice marketing, initiatives every single day of my life. You won't survive in marketing if you don't. So that is a personal drive that I have, and it's always served me well. And it does tend to attract me to people that are similar. Michael, you and I, love to chat for hours on end because you're very similar. You're exceptionally driven in your career. And I tend to find myself in those circles. And that keeps me more motivated than ever.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you started out, did you have a mentor that taught you the ropes and showed you what you need to do to succeed in this business?
I've been lucky enough. Back then, I probably didn't consider them mentors, but they were people that I revered, right? And so when I moved to Chicago, coming from Cleveland, not knowing anybody, my first boss was, she was just this dynamite, head of marketing and comms. And I just would emulate her. It's kind of embarrassing. I admitted this to her a couple of years ago, but I used to sit outside her office and I would take notes. This was back when people wrote things down. I would take notes of what she was saying on conference calls. And at the time, our biggest client was Procter and Gamble, and we ran almost all of their business. And I would write down sentences that she said and some of the vernacular and the business terms that I didn't know. And I would go home and practice them in front of the mirror and look them up in the dictionary and do all of that. So I think when I was younger, it was more of people that I revered and that I could see myself learning from. And then as I got older and realized, hey, there are mentors out there, people that are willing to sit down and meet with you and have discussions, I immediately jumped on that train. My first real mentor was probably the CEO of a pharmaceutical company that I joined. So, a $4 billion organization. He was the CEO of it. But I really was honest with him and told him I had a lot to learn. And he was somebody that I thought could teach me. And he took me under his wing and was probably the most influential person in my life. But till this day, I can name 5 mentors at any given time that I have. It's the most powerful thing that I use is my mentor group and my networking group.
I agree with you so much on that, on those points. And I think in anything in business, in anything that you want to go out to do, no matter what industry or profession it may be, I think you have to have some sort of mentor or people you look up to, or a just someone you can sound off on and
Mhm.
ask questions and how do I solve this and issues I have. I've seen, as much as people will join Facebook's groups to send out information for help if they do not have that mentorship. But I'm a huge fan of mentors, being a mentor for people. I think that only if you strive to be better in business, in life, you can't do it alone. And
You can't. And I think that there's a big barrier with a large population of people because I mentor and I do mentoring programs through like Engage Cleveland and other things like that. And the biggest thing that I hear is people don't know how to find a mentor or could feel very uncomfortable asking somebody to give that time, right? And to give that much value because it is something that's on a volunteer pro bono base. And what I've learned is if you don't ask, you don't get,
there
right?
you go.
So if I were to ask you to be my mentor and you didn't have the time or you didn't want to do it, you'd simply say no. So there's no harm, no foul in that. But that's a hard barrier for some people. It hasn't been hard for me. I have no problem asking people to help me. And I hope, especially as digital takes hold and more people are heads down and communicating via phones, I hope people remember to do that, to still meet in person or meet like this, where we can see each other and ask for help and help, try to learn from other people. It's the most valuable thing I've done in my career.
So, Amy, I know what your forte is in marketing and building a brand and how much you've helped me in my career. But I want to ask you, what is important to consider when one is building a brand?
So that's a tough question. And when we're talking to your audience, I'm assuming you mean probably a personal brand, correct?
Yeah, I would say let's keep it personal rather than a major corporation brand. Let's build a
Got it.
personal brand. And if you can relate that to the real estate industry, fantastic. If not, I'm not mad at you.
Sure. Well, and I see, right? So I know you and so much of your team and everybody that's associated with the MDB team. I know how much you guys work at building your brand and your presence. I think the biggest thing that people forget, this is elementary level, is that building a brand actually takes time and takes dedication and commitment. So I meet with so many entrepreneurs right on the side that will tell me, I want to be a thought leader or I want to raise my visibility in the community. And they don't really understand the type of commitment and time that comes along with that. You have to commit to that every single day. The market is exceptionally crowded, right? And Michael, nobody probably knows this more than you. Roughly, how many people are you competing against in the Cleveland area?
I don't have the exact figure, but I think it's somewhere just past 6,500, close to 7,000 agents. And it's probably closer to 6,500, but
That's a lot in Cleveland, Ohio, right?
it's a ton.
That's insane. And so I think, starting off by saying that this is something that you're going to commit to for the long tail of it. It's not like you do personal brand work and share a voice and thought leadership work, and you sell a house because of it the next day and making people understand that this is a very long, continuous journey. And so I would say that's first and foremost. And when I meet with people, they can't typically commit to that. I'll say, how much time are you willing to commit to this per week? And some of them will say, well, not every week. And I'm like, it's every day, not every week, it's every day. So I think first and foremost is the time and the commitment, because breaking through to 6,500 people, breaking out of that clutter does not happen one and done in a day and does not happen overnight. So first is realizing this is a long game and you're in it for the long haul. I've been creating my personal brand and thought leadership for 20 plus years. I still do it every day. I still did LinkedIn work this morning before we jumped on this call, and this is a Saturday, right? So that's first and foremost. Second, I think, is really being able to understand your personal value proposition. So in a sea of 65 to 7,000 people, I'm sure there's going to be a couple of you that have a very similar, unique value. But, are you somebody that, specializes in certain types of homes, in certain neighborhoods, and certain zip codes? Are you looking for single family, single people, large family homes? There's a gazillion, right? But how do you really want to develop your niche and where you are the most powerful? Because you have to hone in on an area that you can start to talk about, learn about, communicate about, and teach. And if you just broadly focus on real estate, you're going to fall into that general population that's just kind of saying the same thing over and over again. Does that make sense?
100% completely resonates with me. Completely.
And I think, from you, what I could always tell you, Michael, I've worked with you in the real estate industry. Your ability to get to know your customers and understand what they're looking for and really know them. There's so many times I've talked to you and you're like, you're never going to like this house. I'm not even going to show it to you, because you took that time to learn about me and to understand what our family was looking for. That could be your value proposition. It doesn't have to be something that is directly related to real estate. Yours could be your connection with your customer. But what makes you successful and what makes you thrive is what people have to really ask themselves and understand. And then that's where they can start to develop content around that, start to position themselves, create, marketing materials around it, taglines behind it, blogs behind it. But you got to hone in on what value you bring to your customer base.
Amy, can you talk to me about networking and how would one go about building their network if they do not have one? Or if you do have a network, how do you keep it going and make it larger?
So this is probably what I put the most amount of my time to on a monthly basis is my network. And when I think about realtors, I think this is something you do exceptionally well, Michael, right? But my network is how I've gotten every single job that I've ever had in my life. So it has come to me through my network. So I nurture my network and I cherish it. And so my biggest thing, I actually just posted on this on LinkedIn, is I show up for my network. But when you think about ways to build it, there has never been a bigger or better opportunistic time to build a network right now because of the power of digital. So, 15, 20 years ago, building a network meant you had to go to specific events, meet people, and you had to fly to conferences. You had to drive to every event and pay tickets to be there and work the room and try to find 10 to 15 people that night. In digital, you can connect with 7,000 people off of one post in a day. It doesn't mean all those people become a part of your network, but the power of digital networking is immense. And so again, I think it's really finding out where people that you want to network with are living. Are a lot of them online, or a lot of them going to weekly or community events? Where are they? And you have to start showing up there. And the biggest thing for me, right? I'm in a true B2B setting, so LinkedIn is probably my most powerful tool. They have a little bell on the profile page, so if I wanted to follow you, Michael, I just click that bell, and every time you post, I get notified. And trust me, I have watched people that I've wanted to connect with post on LinkedIn or post on a Facebook page that they're going to this event. I want to meet them, so guess what? I go to that event. And my goal of that event is to meet with that person and to connect with them and to build my network. So networking without a strategy is a complete waste of time. So, saying to yourself, hey, I want to spend the next 3 to 6 months and I want to meet with, 5 to 7 other realtors that can teach me this, or I want to network with, people in the local political realm that can really raise my visibility within my community. Figure out what you want out of your network, and then you can find it digitally. You can find it. You still have to go to some in-person events, but I tell you what, I do more of this, what you and I are doing today via camera, than I do in-person events now, because the amount of it I can get done is astronomical. And so, I tell people the power of your network should be able to get you any job that you want eventually if you work your network the right way.
So, do you feel that some people that are in sales or in business, some people will not, I don't know if they do not want to bother someone, but it seems like there are people that will not network, or I don't want to reach out to this person. I don't know him. I feel funny. I want to find out how you feel about that. But to me, if you don't do stuff like this, you are completely missing the boat. I think there is a huge, huge difference. And you will see people that are super successful are master networkers, and they're not worried that I don't know you. If you can speak and speak well to people and hold a conversation, I think people love to engage and meet new people. I want to get
I
your,
agree.
I want to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a stronger view in this can be a little controversial at times, but I do think in this new day and age, if you do not have the kind of passion or the ability to network, you will become an outdated dinosaur.
Absolutely.
You will, right? And it's a kind of a brutal thing to say. And look, I'm a Gen Xer, right? So I'm not a boomer, but I'm a Gen Xer. I'm moving up to that top of the pile, so I can say that. But there's a lot of friends and colleagues I know my age that still will say to me, I don't feel comfortable asking. So to me, what that narrows down to, and I often say this in personal coaching, is that's ego. That's ego, right? Ego will tell you, I don't want somebody to tell me no.
I
Um,
don't want to get hurt.
I don't want to get
I
right,
can't handle
or
rejection.
I don't want somebody to turn me down and think that they're better than me, or what if they say no? All of that kind of is encompassed to me in ego. And what I learned very young by watching really driven, successful people is you set your ego aside in business. My ego can get bruised at times. Nobody is immune to it completely, but I don't take things that happen in business the way that I take it with my best friends or with my family. So, that's me putting my ego aside. And if somebody turns me down, they turn me down. I don't take it personally. I have somebody else that I ask for that. So I always tell people, if you let your ego drive your career, you're going to be working until the day you die, because you're going to have to. So I plan to retire, right? And have a healthy retirement. So I set my ego aside, and I know that if I stick at it, and by the way, I'm respectful with people that I network with. So, and that's my side of, you got to show up, right? I show up when I say I'm going to show up. You asked me to meet you at 8 a.m. on a Friday at a cafe downtown. I'm there at 7:55. I've looked you up. I know who you are. I know where you've worked. I probably know where you live. I know who we have in connection in common. I don't go into any meetings that are not prepared, where I'm not prepared. That is a respect level. And I think my network knows that I am respectful of their time. I'm not going to waste your time. Most of the people in my network are very powerful women with a lot of children and a really high stakes career. If I tell you we're going to chat for 15 minutes, I get off the phone at 14 minutes and 55 seconds. And so I think when you develop a reputation of being respectful, and you show up, you do what you say you're going to do, those doors start to open up, because people start to vouch for you in that networking space. And it's something that I'm very proud of. I believe in it, and I believe it speaks to your character of how you network as well.
You said something that hit home, respectful. What I do, I try to be respectful for anyone that wants to speak with me, whether it's a title company, whether it's a lender,
Right.
whether it's somebody that's trying to sell me something. I always give them a call back and I will talk to them. Doesn't mean I'm going to do business with them, but to me, it's a common courtesy. If you're in business and you're successful, talk to the person, listen to what they have to say.
Right.
I do think that people get caught up, and I don't know if it's caused by all the spam people receive, all the calls that you receive on your cell phone, all the telemarketing, that
It's a lot.
it seems like it's gotten to some people like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm never going to do business with you. I'm done.
Right.
Well, if that's the case, it's okay. But you tried. I'm not like that. I will talk to anybody and hear what they have to say. And maybe it's something I'm interested in. I never thought I would be interested in.
Right. So you hit on something that I think is so important. And this is especially for people that I think aren't, embedded in that networking world, is I do not hide my intention of networking. And people that do that with me, I will not meet with. Right. So I get a gazillion requests. I'm, probably just because of, because I'm in marketing and because I'm associated with some companies that have high visibility. And I'm like you, I will always take a meeting, but you need to be honest with me about your intention of meeting with me. Do you want to meet with me because you're looking for a job and you need some connections? I'll meet with you any day about that. People have done it for me. Do you want to meet with me because you want to learn more about marketing? You want to more about branding? Do you want to meet with me because there's somebody in my network that is crucial for you to meet? All of those are yeses for me. But when I get people that reach out and say, "Can I just buy you a cup of coffee?" My answer back to them always is why? Why? Because it's my job to show up to that meeting prepared. And if I don't, that conversation is probably 40 to 60% of it could be a complete waste. Let's come to the table with respect and preparedness. And then I'll meet with you any day of the week. And look, I've gotten some people when I talk about this, I've publicly spoken about networking. And when I say that I do that, some people get very offended by that. Oh, that's very rude. No, it's rude to ask me to meet you and not tell me why you want to meet with me. That's how I look at it. And that's the discipline that I require from people. If you do that work, I'll meet with you anytime.
After somebody meets with you or you meet with them, how important is your follow up after that meeting?
I follow up whether or not they do or not. Because again, that's the commitment that I've made if I've met. So even if you're the person who's asked to meet with me, I will follow up, because to me, it's about closing that loop and understanding the two-way value of that relationship. If you choose not to, right? And I talk a lot about this, about transactional networking. There's networking to me that is long-term and long tail. And then there's networking to me that is very transactional and one and done. I live in both spaces. There are people that I meet with that say, "Hey, I want to ask you X, Y, and Z. Will you meet me and have coffee?" And we never meet again. We fulfill a need for each other and we never meet again. So if it's transactional, closing the loop, making sure we end on good terms is great. If it is a long-term networking play, just like personal brand and everything that goes into that, then you have to nurture that relationship. So I put time into that. I watch the content that people put out. I engage with their content online. I'll shoot them a text if I see them at a conference. "Oh my gosh, congratulations on the award." I make that effort because to me that is long-term and long-tail networking that will pay off. And we need to stay connected in order to open doors for each other.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you've actually networked with somebody you've wanted to meet with. You meet with them, went really well. Then you are following up. Are you writing a handwritten note? Can you send them a text? Are you sending them an email? And then are you following them on all socials?
All of the above. So for me, I try to hone my communication on the person. right? So Jeff Charney is a great example. Jeff Charney is the former CMO of Progressive Insurance. He's somebody that he knows I call him a mentor, whether or not he believes he's my mentor or not, he is. I love him. I follow everything that he does. He's given me some amazingly, strong advice throughout a couple years of my career. And so with Jeff, he's super busy, but Jeff's on Facebook a lot, right? So I tend to follow up with Jeff through Facebook Messenger because that's where Jeff responds the most. So I will shoot him a note on Facebook Messenger.
So it's acceptable to do something like that.
Absolutely. I think it's more where the person that you are meeting with and asking for favors, where do they live? So most people know I'm very active on LinkedIn. So most people will shoot me a thank you note on, through a direct message on LinkedIn. But I have I have handwritten notes and shot them out. Keith Maybe, who is probably one of the highest people in investor relations in Cleveland, he's just a good soul, and I know how much the power of a written note means to him. So every time I meet with him, I write him a handwritten note. So I don't have a tried and true process. I try to make it relatable to the person and where they live. If they're digital, if they're more, handwritten, if they want to call, if they want to text, I try to figure that out by knowing them personally.
That's good stuff, Amy. Let's say that I'm a young person. I am kind of an introvert. I am very shy. I don't have a lot of self-confidence. And I am in business and I'm trying to establish myself and meet people. Give me the one tip that you think that I should start with to network. What would be that one thing to do?
I think the first thing is your kind of foundation built, right? So I think people think, again, very transactional about when I meet somebody, what am I going to say? And and you're playing all of that in your head over and over again. But there's a step that needs to happen before that, before the meeting. So when somebody goes to search for you after, where are they going to find you and how do you show up? So do you have, is your website up? And is there a personal profile up there with a picture that looks like you right now and an up-to-date bio? Is your LinkedIn page updated with content on there about you, or your Facebook page, or your, wherever you live as a business? Is that representative of you? Because don't forget, you're just meeting somebody for the first time. It may be a 5-minute or 20-minute interaction. Those people are going to go look you up and make sure you are who you say you are. So have you done that work before you start to go network that does that work for you? So if I looked you up, Michael, am I going to find out a little bit more about you and your accolades and where you stand in the community, and what's your unique value proposition as you work with people that are selling or buying homes? Put that work in first, because if you think that one-on-one doesn't translate into people looking up who you are, making sure that it's legit, especially in this day and age, before they make an introduction to somebody that they know and that they respect, are you on paper who you are in person? And I think people forget that. So, especially when I think about realtors, and I know, a lot of you are tied to larger brands, but what are those channels that people are going to find you on? It can only be one. It only has to be one. Maybe it's your personal website, but I look on LinkedIn, I look on Facebook, I look on Instagram, I look up people's websites. So that to me is first and foremost. But the second thing immediately after that is making sure you understand why you want to meet with someone. Is that very clear? Can you articulate it? And you should be very honest and open with them within the first couple minutes of meeting with them. So if I walked up to you, Michael, I would have no problem probably saying at an event, Michael, I've heard so much about you in the community. All of my friends and neighbors have said you are the person to go to when I'm looking to buy a house. And I'm so grateful I ran into you today. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Think about how powerful that is for you. You now know what I'm looking for. The conversation is already shaped, so it takes some of the awkwardness away. And it starts a valuable conversation, hopefully. That's how I look at it.
Tell me if this makes sense. So, in I'm just going to use myself here. With me in my daily life, the way I am with people not working, and the way I am with clients, I'm that same person.
Mhm.
I don't change my values. I am that same person. So if people know how I am as a friend, I'm the same guy. I don't change who I am. It's real basic for me. I just follow the path that I've always went down, and I don't go away from it.
Well, that's authenticity, right? And I think that's hugely important in when you meet with somebody and you hear about them in the community or you read about them online or you see some of the content that they put out. If and this so you and I are kind of saying oddly enough the same thing,
We
right?
are exactly.
My thing is when I look you up after you and I meet and I look at some of maybe the content you've put on Facebook or Instagram, or I look at your bio on your website, or I see some family pictures with you and your beautiful family online, is that the same person that I just spoke to? I think that if you are digitally present in any way and you have maybe a disingenuous kind of personality, or you are inadvertently even maybe not authentic in your character to who you are, to what you're posting, I think it's very easy to see that. And I think that's why you see more people trying to be more authentic and share online personal and professional content. I love that. I share personal and professional. I view that as I am a whole person, right? So if I only shared about my personal life or if I only shared about my professional life, I'm not being authentic to my personal, network or my professional, because I'm more than my job and I'm also more than just my family. I think in this day and age, you're found out a lot quicker than you used to be.
That's a good point. So I'm asking this question for a friend, Amy, and I'm going to tailor it to my friend.
Okay.
In a crowded real estate market, how does one differentiate oneself to add value?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think it goes back to that understanding your own value proposition is where you have to start, right? But then the other part is using tools and using platforms that help you stay in front of your customers, not in a broad way, right? So I think in this day and age, this is what's very hard for people that are trying to establish themselves as thought leaders or to create more visibility with their target audience is segmentation is key. So if you are working for a large organization, if you're a realtor, and you're under an umbrella brand, the number one key is what are the tools that they're giving you at your fingertips that you can use to be better? So that's, CRM, the email marketing. So I get a ton of blasts from realtors, right? I do. I get a ton of emails from realtors, but they're very rarely segmented to me and where I am. And what that tells me is that a lot of people are not using the segmentation tools that they probably have at their fingertips. And if they don't have it from an umbrella brand, you can get it from your own tools, right? You can get some type of CRM and use it. But for instance, I'm sure, Michael, if you were at a party and I'm somebody that's buying a house and the guy next to me is somebody who's selling a house, you have different things to talk to me about. If I live in Cleveland, if I live on the west side of Cleveland versus the east side of Cleveland, we're going to have a different discussion about where I'm looking. And so in this day and age where digital is so massive and there's so many tools that allow you to be smarter and more segmented, that's how you step out of the shadows in my mind. And it goes back to how much work are you willing to put in? Because that means, let's say your friend that you're asking this for is Peter, right? That means every day that Peter meets somebody and he's entering a contact into his system, he is taking the time to do it right. He's not just adding an email and a first and last name. He's adding a location, there's a drop down that says he's a buyer, not a seller. You have personal notes in there of where you met him and all of that, so that when you start to use email marketing, not one-offs, but lists, you can create lists that are tailored to your separate audiences. And that goes with your social channels as well. So, when you are going out on an Instagram or a Facebook or a LinkedIn and you're talking to the masses, people will inevitably shut you out. They're not a mass. They have a very personal need in a certain point of time. So, being direct with your content and saying, for those who are looking in the housing market right now with the interest rates, what they are, here's 3 things I want to tell you that you should be thinking about. That's very different than the people who are selling their homes. So then you put out content to that. And I think that I see so many realtors not tailoring and segmenting. And it's because they're not taking the time to use probably a lot of the tools that their companies are giving them in the right way.
You were just hitting points on everything that I talk about to my team all the time. It's if you don't use a CRM, you are so far behind the 8 ball.
Oh, yeah.
It's ridiculous. A CRM is used in every single business. If it's not, I can't think of one that it's not used in. Do you think that the reason, because there are a lot of people that do not use it, they'll just use their phone and everybody's in their phone. To me, is it just, I don't want to take the time. I don't want to learn anything. I don't know technology. I think it's just like too much. Don't need to do it. They're in my phone. But you use one, I use one. To me, it's like having a second brain for me, that it handles everything.
I think the days of not using it will soon be over, because again, it's a sad thing. And I hate to be negative, right? Because I think that anybody can be a powerful marketer. You just have to make a mindset shift that you're going to start to embrace technology. But with AI and automation and everything that's coming out, if you choose to run your business without using these digital tools, and sure, there's always outliers that are going to make it no matter what, but the likelihood of you being successful is considerably dropping day by day. And I do see it. I see it a ton, that there is, that people are intimidated by learning new technology. And that's what I say to people is, you don't have to become a massive technologist. Learn one tool and start with your CRM. Little by little, start with your CRM. Find somebody in your office, find somebody in your network that will just day by day make you better. This isn't something where you're going to lock yourself in a room and in 8 hours learn how to master your CRM. No, you won't. If you've never used it, this is a journey. Mm-hmm. But you can get there day by day, and it's the commitment to it. And so if you're going to be one of those, people that, and sadly, I know there's a large population of them that continue to be intimidated by technology, you will feel it more and more every day, kind of people passing you by.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah. It's a hard thing, right? It's a hard thing when I work with some of the smartest people in business, some of the smartest CEOs I've ever seen, and they won't embrace technology. Now, that's okay if you work at a company where you have people that do it for you, right? That's okay. You will survive. If you are an entrepreneur and you don't have a team of people working and keeping you updated and using these tools, for you, then you will not be able to scale. You might be able to sell a house here and there, but the scale of the amount of people you're going to be able to reach and the people you're going to be in front of, so that, 500 of those 6,500 people that you're competing, that you want to reach, you can reach, it's going to be very difficult.
What determines a super successful person in business is just the little things that we talked about on the time they're willing to put in to make themselves better. How can I make myself better? Not how do I make myself better than Amy? I just want to be better than what I was. And what can I do? It does amaze me that people don't do that, but that is the difference. It's such a small amount of, this is what I need to do, but I don't want to put in the work.
But if you think about it, Michael, right, which what I find so fascinating, it's almost like a, it's almost like a sociology experiment, but it's like at the end of the day, are you committed to being a continual learner? And when you break that down, that's ego again. I have no strange thoughts that I am the smartest I can be and I cannot learn anymore in marketing. And I am a chief marketing officer. So I know people who have hit a certain pinnacle in their career and they feel that they don't need to learn anymore. And that is where I think you find this almost like atrophy in business, right? They no longer stay ahead of the game. I read anywhere, my team knows this, they make fun of me. I read anywhere between 5 and 25 blogs a day. I listen to 10 to 12 podcasts a week. You're one of them, Michael. But that is, I don't get paid to do that. I don't do that while I'm at work. Some of it I do while I'm at work, right? It's a part of making me better at my job. But most of this is on my own time because I know that I have to stay ahead. I have to stay relevant. So, when I look at your community, and what you do, and I'm sure I'm sure this is something you have to do every single day, but you have to read about the markets and the interest rates and what is going on with taxes and in different communities and politics, and you have to understand all of that to be able to have conversations with people that are going to ask you questions about that. New people that are maybe coming to Westlake or Cleveland are going to ask you questions about, where does this stand, or how do you look at the tax rate in this area, or what are the school systems here, what are the challenges in these neighborhoods. And if you're not well versed in that, as well as on the national level, the economic side of things, I can only imagine the challenges you're going to have being successful as a realtor. And that's how I view marketing. If I am not up to date on what's happening with automation and chat GPT and everything that OpenAI and all these other amazing companies are putting out, and I am not staying ahead of the curve on attribution and retargeting and marketing efforts, I'm not going to be valuable to my company. And I'm certainly not going to be valuable to the company that one day I want to work for. So if you're not willing to put that time with the power of the internet and everything you can learn now and read and listen to, the continual learning chart is off the hook. Again, you will get left behind.
Amy, Steve Jobs said, innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity, not a threat. What advice do you have for someone facing change in whatever industry they're in?
That's such a great question, Michael. And it's so ripe for marketing right now. So I'll give you an example. I was talking to somebody who I admire in the field of marketing, and they are a copywriter. And copywriters right now are probably they're feeling it, right? Because you've got ChatGPT, you've got Jasper, you've got all these tools coming out that make probably subpar writers better writers. And there's a lot of discussion about people, shrinking their teams or rethinking about how to create copy. And I was talking to somebody who I thought, is just really strong and has every reason to be confident. And their response to me when I asked about how they were, handling all the changes with AI was, oh, that's, that'll never affect me. I'm a very niche writer. So it's never going to affect me. And yeah, everybody's trying to be a writer, and good luck. And I realized in that moment that they have let innovation intimidate them. And instead of seeing the opportunity as an amazing copywriter that can now be maybe 5 times faster with every piece of content, and can brainstorm with a machine on a daily basis when they hit a rut, right? And think about all the ways that they can augment their team. They are self-protecting, and they are saying, this is not something that I am embracing. And so for me, as new tools and changes come about in in communities, online, offline, whatever it is, you know, you have to step back. And I feel like the whole conversation around you and I is has inadvertently been around ego, but you have to step back and put your ego aside.
It has, but I mean, I didn't mean it to go that, but the more you talk about it and it comes out, I mean, it's just like, wow, that's really what it's all about.
So to me, there's going to be innovative things that come out every other week now, and pretty soon it'll be every day. And as you and I get older, it's going to be harder and harder, right? So it will become very hard. There's proven research that at a certain point your brain kind of opts out of technology, and there's all of that that's going to happen. But I just try never to get to a point where I say that is a risk, not an opportunity. And one of the biggest ways that I feel like I did this and I voiced it very loud was when millennials and Gen Z started coming into the workforce. And we all remember it, right? We all remember it because we were boomers or Gen Xers working in an environment where there was very little flexibility. It was pretty corporate. There was a lot of politics and there was a lot of success. And then you had these young kids come in and say, we're not doing it that way. And you know what? If you talk to me like that, I'm going to go to HR. Or if I can't work from home 3 days a week, I'm not taking this job. And you saw a huge portion of people in business put them down and say, what a joke they are. They're going to destroy this economy. They're going to ruin businesses. They're going to do, X, Y, and Z. I never once said that, because they are the new way of running businesses, whether you like it or not. And they will one day, maybe, Michael, be our bosses.
Sure.
And you have to understand that that's the ego side of it. And so instead of saying, gosh, this person is literally clocking out every day at 5:05 and I'm working till 7 o'clock at night, and this is BS. Instead of doing that, I was able to say, I admire that. And I'm going to take a little bit of a lesson from that. And tonight I'm going to have dinner with my family. And while, that was an innovation in my face, challenging the way that I work and my, my commitment and my drive, and somebody was challenging that. And I could have been a part of that group, and I'm not. I'm a huge advocate for the younger teams coming in and changing the way that businesses run. It needs to be changed. It's time. And so some of it may not be overly comfortable for me, but I'm not going to shut it out. And I think that speaks to Steve Jobs' quote is, when innovation comes at you, you have one or two ways you're going to go. You're going to fight it. You're going to become intimidated by it. You're going to become negative about it, or you're going to embrace some opportunity to learn from it. And I just always challenge myself to learn.
For me, I absolutely love that quote. It can go deeper. It's not just about change in business. It's change in life. It's just, you must adapt. You must open your mind. You must not be closed-minded. Don't be closed-minded. See things through a different set of eyes.
The easiest way to look at it is stand in a grocery store and watch the people that go to self-checkout and watch the people who are not, and the way that they look at the people that go to self-checkout. And by the way, I hate self-checkout. I hate it. But I make myself do it when it makes sense. It's coming. It's coming. And there are so many times where you realize, when you look over to the left and you see it, you will be out the door 5 times faster. So you have to check, and you're exactly what you just said. In that moment, you have to say, I really don't want to go over there, but I'm going over there.
But I'm going.
Yeah. It's a small little example, but I think it's a really interesting one right now, is that I always equate to people adopting technology is watch people around the self-checkout.
Wow, that's so funny. And now I will make myself aware of that, but it's so true. And it's just something small, but the whole world since COVID, the whole world has changed.
Yeah.
Do you work from home at all, or are you an office girl?
So my last job, I was 50-50. I was living in New York a lot, but then I'd come home. My home has always been in Cleveland for the last 20 years. My current job, I go into the office every single day. I like to be in the office.
Hmm.
I will tell you, every once in a while when I do work from home, I am very aware of how much more I get done. When I work at home, my productivity level is off the charts, right? Because you don't have the interactions, the people stopping by your office, the interruptions. Hey, can you run into this meeting? Hey, can you do this? So the efficiency is off the charts when I work from home. But I work with a very large sales team, right? And my job as the CMO is to make our sales team more productive, more efficient, get them more leads, help them win more clients. And so for me, it's exceptionally important to be around them a lot, and I ask to go to meetings with them. I sit next to them when they make calls, because I have to understand what they're going through if I'm going to be in a position where I can make them better. So I'm still one of those people who really enjoy the office time. Every once in a while I get a day from home and I'm like, oh man, I just crushed my to-do list. So I love it, but I'm an in-office person. Yeah.
Amy, would you share with me what your blueprint for success looks like?
I would say my blueprint for success is really about staying curious. That's probably the biggest phrase that resonates with me is, if you stay curious in life and you are open to being a continual learner, I think you can be successful in most things you set your mind to. So curious means, you're staying updated on the topics that matter for you, either in business or your personal life. That means you are paying attention, you are listening to other people, you are learning from other people. And the continual learning path is that you are putting time towards a goal. You are setting strategies, setting goals, setting objectives, and you're meeting them. So for me, it always goes back to being intentional, being curious, and being a continual learner. Those are the three components I think that have made me where I am today. Probably those are the three key points for me.
That's wonderful stuff. Tell me, and it could be in any aspect of business, any kind of companies. What are your favorite brands out there and why?
Ooh, that's a great question. Um, so I'm a big fan of Pvolve. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Pvolve is an amazing fitness brand. They really are focused on functional fitness and moving your body in a way that helps you and not hurts you. It's a startup out of New York. I was a business founder. I was the head of marketing there. I'm a huge still fan. I'm still a part owner of the business. Jennifer Aniston is a spokesperson. It's amazing, right? So I'm a little biased, but I'm a big fan of Pvolve. The leadership team, the brand team there, everything that they put out, I think is really solid. So I'm a big fan of them. I love Chewy. I don't know if you watch Chewy. You have a dog, so you probably
Wait a
do.
second. Love that. Absolutely fantastic stuff.
Yep. I think Chewy is just, they understand who they are, and they understand their customer base, and they know how to meet them and interact with them. So I'm a huge fan of Chewy. Another brand that has always blown me away is Glossier. And Michael, I realize I'm speaking to a lot of female focused brands, but Glossier is an amazing online kind of cosmetic and skin company. And the reason I watch them is I feel like they were one of the first pioneers in the influencer space, in the influencer marketing space, which I think goes back to something for your audience as well. As when you're trying to build a brand, the fastest way to do that is to meet with influential people in your market, right, and make them ambassadors of you. So influencer marketing is massive, especially in the D2C space, and I think Glossier does it probably one of the best I've seen. And then there's kind of market creators that I've always admired, like Spanx, again, another female brand, but Spanx is a market creator, right? They came to market first, and then they have stayed, in that top position or top 5 position throughout their journey. Because usually what you find in marketing is sometimes when you're the first in the space, when you're the innovator in the space, the people who follow that are able to learn from some of your challenges or mistakes usually kind of skyrocket right by you. And so when I look at Spanx, I'm really I admire the way that they've been able to stay at the forefront, because they kind of created that that space with tummy wear and all that kind of stuff. But I also really, and this one can be controversial at times, but this is an easy one to say. But I've always been a huge fan of Nike. Nike is somebody that is very strong in the content that they put out, right? I can watch sometimes a Nike commercial and cry. And the fact that a brand that big can still do that to me with a space that is exceptionally crowded, I really like. So yeah, those are, and I love watching, people roll their eyes at it. I love watching these kind of TikTok and Instagram brands take shape.
Fantastic.
I love it, right? It is leveling the playing field from a financial standpoint, that a suburban housewife in Indiana can create a mug that goes viral. And look, these are not long-term wealth plays, right? But I love that people are able to now come on and create an e-commerce platform like that and start to share what they like and what they care about, and others can relate to that and buy from it. And again, when you and I talked about this from the Steve Jobs quote and innovation, there's a lot of companies or a lot of entrepreneurs that hate those people, right? Because they're crowding the space really fast. And if you're buying a shirt from a woman who's making shirts in a warehouse down the street from her, then you're taking away from Nordstrom. And so Nordstrom probably hates you, right? But when I look at that, when I'm in the space and I see competitors emerge that way, I love it. I love it. I watch them make us work harder. I love the competition, but I also love to see the financial aspect of people being able to make money without having large scale investors, or without a Target or a Walmart hiring you or buying your product. I love seeing entrepreneurs spark up that way. So those are probably all the ones that I admire.
I agree, Amy, and I just think that I don't know what the timeline is, but what you were touching on, as somebody can go on Instagram or TikTok and they're doing an ad for with me. It's a T-shirt or a pair of tennis shoes or a hat. That is everything I buy now is I see it on TikTok. I see it on Instagram.
Right.
That sucks me in more than anything. And
So let's not forget to relate that to what we've talked about today, right? Because we didn't dive too much into channel, but when you think about that and when you understand your value proposition and you understand your personal value proposition and what relates to your audiences, your ability to quickly create content on those channels that can suck people in and to create a following and to create a community on there will be exponentially faster than if you walked around the neighborhood and tried to introduce yourself
knocked on a door, right?
and knocked on a door, right? So again, going back to, if you put the work in at the beginning and you understand your strategy and who you want to connect with, you understand your own value proposition and the type of customers that you're going to make successful and you're going to resonate with, you have your target market, then you figure out what channels they live on. And if they live on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, pick one and do it really well. And that content, you and I talk a lot about this, is content needs to work really hard for you. So if you're going to write an email on a topic that goes out to a segment, that can be the same topic that you talk about on an Instagram reel, can be the same topic that you talk about on a podcast, or that you post about on LinkedIn, or that you write a blog about, or that you talk about at an event when you're on a panel or you're speaking at a community event. The content can transcend all channels. And that's called content marketing. So, if you're clear about that, you don't have to create ideas every single day. You have to create, 3 to 5 a month that you want to talk about, that you consistently put out on each channel. So if you don't reach me as your target audience over email, but you hit me on Instagram, or I run into you at a local restaurant and it's something that you bring up to me and you're reiterating that value proposition to me, you are going to scale much faster. So I think it's powerful.
Amy, I know I've taken up so much of your time today, but I appreciate you coming on and giving us so much of your wisdom and knowledge. That was absolutely a fantastic conversation. You are brilliant at what you do, and you are such a lovely, wonderful person and friend. And I thank you.
Well, the feeling's mutual, Michael, and I loved being on, and keep doing what you're doing. I love the podcast. So thanks for letting me be a part of it.
Oh, Amy, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Make sure to follow us on social media at MDV The Blueprint on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We post a ton of great content. And please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast channel so you never miss out on an episode. Thanks again, and see you next time.